today marks the launch of the African Critical Minerals Summit at the Sandton Convention Centre. That inaugural summit has brought together stakeholders, industry experts, policymakers and investors to explore opportunities from rare minerals and the promotion of sustainable mining practices. Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe delivered a keynote address at the summit, calling for the development of a shared vision to help foster regional cooperation and economic growth. SABC News economics reporter Katlego has more.
Described as a momentous occasion not only for South Africa but for the continent and the globe at large, looking at positioning the mineral resources that South Africa and Africa has to ensure that the economies get to strive and we get the best out of the jobs that will be created here. Today marking the launch of the first day of the Africa Critical Minerals Summit taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre, and this is where we are seeing different role players just come under the same roof, with Minister Gwede Mantashe also delivering a keynote address here just to talk about how important it is, or it will be, for South Africa and for Africa to come through with a critical strategy in terms of tapping into the critical mineral resources. I'm going to bring into the conversation now the president of the Mineral Resources, or the Mineral Council of South Africa, this being Gwede, just getting off the podium, delivering that address as well, this presentation around the opportunities that exist within this sector. We are looking at ensuring that the economies get the best out of the critical mineral resources. Welcome to the SABC.
Thank you very much, Katlego, and again, it's great that you are here to be part of this inaugural session, because critical minerals that the world require, actually about 70% of those reside in the African continent. So it's important that we become part of the strategy holistically as a continent, but also globally, to be part of the future as to what happens to those minerals.
I mean, here we're hearing talks of just dissecting the periodic table bit by bit to ensure that we don't leave any rare mineral resource that can come through and help the economies. Maybe just help us try and understand what are some of those critical mineral resources, looking at that periodic table.
Well, the periodic table will need to go and find it and put it behind us. But what is important is that with innovation and technology, we are now able to mine even some of those areas which used to be called rare earths or areas difficult to reach, because now we know and understand better how you can apply those minerals. So, for example, lithium, and there's vanadium in South Africa that you find, but in the continent it's cobalt, it's copper. Copper is critical for transportation. We know that's why in South Africa we have a huge challenge around the copper cable theft, because it's a commodity that can be used for many other applications. Cobalt is important for the future, battery technology that we're talking about, and many other minerals that even go into your cell phone. So that's why we say in mining, if it's not grown, it's not coming from the ground as a plant, it's actually mined. And that's what keeps our economies growing and developing.
And also just at the center of this would be just ensuring that we come through with a strategy. You mentioned some of those impediments that we need to look out for as we go about just tapping into some of these resources. We've literally been sleeping on ourselves as Africa here.
Well, in terms of strategies, we have to really sit back and say, how do we best make sure that as the continent, we get the resources beneficiated in the continent? So refining, making sure that you don't just get the product and export it, but you also refine it so that there's value add, and beneficiation, which is something we've been talking about as a country for a long time. But those are the areas across the value chain that we can look at and put in funding. And secondly, when you do beneficiation, when you do the processing in country, or at least in the continent, you are creating more jobs, you are developing technology and innovation, and more importantly, the security of supply that you put in place, make sure that you become a predictable supplier for the future. Therefore, the governments need to have a vision and also regulatory frameworks that work for everyone. And those regulatory frameworks must be predictable, so that you know when you come into this country, these are the expectations around how this country wants its minerals to be utilized for the benefits of its citizens and also its people. And in terms of the resources, we also need to realize that when we talk about climate change and transition into the green economy, these critical minerals are crucial because they mitigate the climate change challenges that the world is facing today, and therefore are important for decarbonization. And if it's important for decarbonization, it means it's important for our future sustainability of the whole world. And therefore we have to ask what role, how best do we as the continent have the window of opportunity that adds value to all of us.
Menolita Fakude, thank you very much for your time, just coming through as the president of really the Mineral Council of South Africa, just after having delivered also that presentation here, talking about how important it will be. It's all hands on deck, and later on in the afternoon we'll be seeing that ministerial roundtable. We have Namibia here, we have the DRC here as well, South Africa's Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, who's also here. They're all looking to work towards a common strategy that would ensure that South Africa and Africa gets the best out of this critical mineral resources. I'm Katlego, Legodi for SABC News in Sandton.